Carbon fiber is all the rage nowadays, and probably rightfully so. It's light, it's strong, and as a weave, it's got a pretty cool look. And of course, as with any cool new material, hobbyist communities were quick to jump in on it, anything from car parts, phone cases, watches, and even keyboards. This is the Weaven. I assume the name is inspired from carbon fiber weaves. It's a 60% keyboard made of aluminum and carbon fiber that aims to allow premium build quality on the go. I'm a little mixed about the design. I think from the top it looks great. Here you only see aluminum, which is made up of 4 pieces that connect to each other by screws. You had the option to choose whatever colors you wanted, which is cool. I have gray sides and blue front and back edges, which I think is a good combo. The seams between these pieces are angled, which was probably to provide some keying so that the pieces won't wobble when assembled, but it also has the effect of adding just a little bit more flair to the design. So when viewed from the top, I think it looks great. It's truly a unique look. From the side, you can see that the case itself is a pretty simple flat box. On the bottom, there is quite a bit of incline that's provided by these metal feet, which are separate pieces. Also on the bottom is our first look at the carbon fiber part of the keyboard. It's pretty cool, but you never get to see it, so there's that. The other carbon fiber is the plate. You can see just a tiny bit of it on the perimeter of the keyboard because there's a gap, but nothing too notable. So if you are hoping for a keyboard that brags about being made of carbon fiber, you're out of luck here. Quick note about the plate, the machining tolerances for this isn't very high, and to make it worse, it has switch top opening support, so you'll need to either use PCB mount switches or take great care during assembly to avoid blatantly crooked keys. Anyway, I'm not really a big fan of this elevated box look. The feet are really cool, but something about it just doesn't appeal to me. You might like it though. What it reminds me of is something like the White Fox, which uses generic CNC aluminum feet, and the Norba Touch, which uses even sillier looking feet. The advantage to those designs is that users can choose whether they want an incline, but the same isn't readily the case on the Weaven. The feet can be removed for sure, but I'm not really sure where I should put the bump-ons. I can't really put it on the carbon fiber plate because it's recessed, and I don't really want to put it on the aluminum pieces because they're really thin. Besides, I think the board was meant to be used with the feet anyway, because removing them reveals these cutouts on the bottom plate where the shelf liner can peek through. The Weaven is unique not only in its look, but also in its construction. The aluminum pieces are held together by just these 4 screws. Undo them and you can pull apart the shorter side pieces and then the longer pieces. These are anodized, and I am a little bit concerned about the durability of the finish on the overlapping parts. I would imagine that the anode will scratch off with enough reassemblies, but that's not really a normal person's use case. Setting the aluminum aside, the rest of the keyboard is the carbon fiber switch plate, the PCB, some shelf liner, and a bottom carbon fiber plate. The interesting thing about this is that the mounting mechanism is completely different from anything I've seen. The aluminum pieces have these channels cut into them where the top and bottom plates slot into. But once you slot the assembly into one of the longer pieces, you'll see that the other side is getting pushed apart by the expanding shelf liner. To complete the assembly, you need to use quite a bit of force to close this lip up and insert it into the other longer piece. There are a couple interesting things about this. The pressure exerted on the bottom and top plates by the shelf liner means that the channels on the aluminum piece don't have to be super precise. As a result, at some zoomed in level, the top plate is touching the top of the channel, but not the bottom, which means the downstroke is supported by the squishy shelf liner. Additionally, when compared to top mount plates, which are secured by some limited number of screws, this is secured at infinite points all around the perimeter, which probably affects the feel. I've built this with a couple different switches, and my impression is that there is some bounce, but not in the traditional sense. With other bouncy boards, I can feel some reverberation going after the downstroke, but the Weaven feels more like a single rebound rather than a vibration. Overall, I like it. Though I do have a little bit of trouble really deciphering the feel because of the sound. With every switch I've tried with the Weaven, except for the current one, the sound ended up being pretty hollow. I found this weird because there's a lot of material under there. The shelf liner should catch at least some of the noise, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The current build is with alias stems and cherry housings. In real life, I'd say this feels and sounds somewhat like silenced Topra if it was using 35-gram domes. And if you're interested in hearing what it sounds like with unsilenced switches, go check out my Box Orioles review. So the Weaven is kind of a weird board with a weird goal. Does it reach its mission of being premium without being too heavy? In my opinion, no. The aluminum does definitely make it feel premium, yes, but I think it's still too heavy and bulky. The weight is significantly reduced from what it would have been if the whole thing had been aluminum, but in my opinion, not enough for it to be comfortably carried. To be honest, I think the whole concept of wanting to carry around a hefty aluminum board is kind of weird, but to be fair, this whole hobby is kind of weird. For me, when I'm trying to go out to a coffee shop and look like a weirdo hipster using a separate keyboard, I'll stick to something even smaller like the minivan, which despite being made of aluminum is pretty light, or my super light all acrylic B-face. But again, that's just me, and I'm the kind of person who bought a thin and light laptop because normal ones are too thick and heavy. It's entirely possible that you'd have a different threshold. Oh, by the way, when I started this review, I thought it was going to be another useless one because the group I already ran years ago, but I saw that Originative had a couple, it's sold out, sorry. Thanks for watching this useless review, and like if you liked it. Subscribe for more videos about things you can't actually buy.